Alright, so Chipp. This is a character that I actually played a little bit in the past, around the time where Rev 2.1 was released, maybe a bit before that. I was having a small character crisis back then. I didn't want to play Mei anymore, I was annoyed at her. So I was looking for other characters. One of the characters that caught my attention was Chipp. I really enjoyed watching Summit play. I found that the stuff that he was doing with the character was really cool, and I was like, hey, let's pick up this character. He's strong, he's Oki, seems pretty powerful and easy to pull off, so let's go. Let's learn this character, I'm gonna be super strong. Then Rev 2.1 got released and I dropped the character because I didn't want to go through another learning process. I was sent back to square one and I didn't want that, so I went back to Mei. Yeah, I'm not really that proud of that one, but hey, it is what it is. We're back with the character, so this time I decided let's learn all the stuff that I didn't learn back then and let's see how it goes. Let's try to take this character to the next level, since I already know to play him a little bit. All the beginner stuff, it's gonna be kinda skipped, so let's go, let's do this. And that's what I did, and I'm happy to say that my Chipp did get a lot better. He's a lot more solid, I panic less with the character, and I can actually do some of his new stuff. Not all of it, because it requires quite a bit of execution. But as usual, let's start by talking about the positives and the negatives of the character, and let's start with the positives. Let's go. So positive number one is that he's very agile and fast. Now I really like agile and fast characters. This dude can do a lot of things. So he has a triple jump. So you usually jump install using his teleports. So you do down down and then up plus HS for example, and you're gonna be able to store an air dash on your teleport, which is great. It helps a lot with mix-ups, it helps a lot with movement as well if you want to do that in neutral. I mostly use it for mix-ups and Oki. You can try to implement it in your neutral, but of course that's much more difficult. You can also use your alpha blade to move around, and you can also wall cling, throw daggers when you're like super far up. It's great doing stuff like TP YRC to catch people that jump prematurely or that try to get out of your pressure. As I said before, if you like the kind of stuff, this is probably one of the better characters for that, and it's insanely fun. Once you actually start getting the hang of it, it feels great, because I would say he's kind of like a sports car in the sense that it's very fast. It has quite a bit of a learning curve. You cannot just jump into a sports car and think that you can drive fast. No, you kind of have to move around with it a little bit so you know how to move in a proper way. So Chipp is kind of the same. Now number two, it's his crazy pressure. So depending on the playstyle that you have with Chipp, you can decide to pressure by going for a lot of frame traps or by going for a lot of mix-ups. That's pretty much up to you. You can even use both styles, I mean that's perfectly fine. Stuff like Gamma Blade being insanely good. It's one of the main reasons that people are scared to press buttons against Chipp pressure. Doing like close as a frame trap is an extremely strong tool as well. And also he even has a command grab, so if you know that the guy is being very patient, you can always go for that. It's an amazing option. And of course that you have the more basic stuff like just going for a run up grab. It works as well. The opponent is going to have to be so aware of all your options that it's very easy to overwhelm people, especially beginners. You can get away with murder when playing against beginners because there's just too much stuff going on with this character. Which means that if you actually learn to play Chipp at a fairly okay level, or like a very basic level, you can take out a lot of people with him. But of course you know that's only gonna get you so far. Once you play against stronger players, the stuff that you were doing is gonna work less, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop doing it. A lot of the basic Chipp pressure still works versus good players, it's that good. So as long as you're solid in that regard, you can get very far with this character. So remember that, his pressure is really good no matter the level of play, as long as you're aware of your opponents and your own options. And finally, one of the things I like the most is that he's very freeform. Now what I mean by very freeform, it's very simple. You can play this character in a lot of different styles, I would say more than any other character. For example, as I said before, you can focus a lot more on just pressure, like close range pressure, a lot of tight block strings, crazy frame traps, mix-ups, teleports, just doing stuff up close and personal against the opponent. That's one way you can play it. Another way you can play it is in a more lame way. Lame of course in big quotes. Now, what do I mean by this? By this I mean playing a very slippery Chipp, so jumping all over the place, wall clinging at max height, throwing daggers, teleport, just trying to be the most slippery Chipp possible. And knowing people are gonna lose their mind if you play like this, it's gonna make it easier for them to make mistakes. Once you see the mistake, you capitalize on it, and then the guy just dies if your Oki is on point. And of course, you can always mix it up. So if you know that one guy struggles against lane Chipp, you can just play lane, and if you know that someone else struggles against a more rushdown Chipp, you can just do that. And I would say that that's the more optimal way to play the character. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you. Pretty much every single Chipp style works well as long as you know that you have to be careful and not to overextend most of the time. That's for the positives. Now, what about the negatives? Well, there are quite a bit, and some of them actually made me stop playing the character back then. My opinion kind of changed nowadays, but you have to know that these negatives are still there, and if you really don't like any of this, then you're not gonna have a lot of a fun time with this character. And the number one negative I would say is that he dies very fast. This is what I mean that you don't have to overextend. This dude dies immediately. If, for example, you try to overextend too much against the Potemkin, he's gonna Potemkin buster you and it's gonna hurt a lot. And then it's gonna be up to you not to panic so you don't get hit by another one or get hit by a counter hit, because once you're knocked down, it's when you have to remain the most relaxed. The moment you start panicking with this character, it's the moment you're gonna get those huge counter hit combos, those crazy grabs or hard reads and all that sort of stuff that usually just flat out kills the character. Because it's very easy to get frustrated when you just get blown up so fast. Like, you don't even have time to play because you make one mistake and you're done. There's no margin of error. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you want to play this character, just know that he dies quickly. Now, for the second negative, complicated execution. Especially now after the patch. A lot of his most optimal stuff requires you to know how to do jump installs. I could explain how to do it, but it's difficult to put it into words. It's not an easy thing for me to explain without having inputs on the screen or notation and so on. But just know that you have to be able to do jump install if you want to do the good Chipp combos and if you want to do the stuff that gives you the good knockdowns, as well as being able to do the good stuff mid-screen. However, keep in mind that this is just for the advanced Chipp stuff. You can still get very good Oki from ignoring that and focusing just on basic setups, basic combos. You're gonna be sacrificing a little bit of damage and maybe good knockdowns, but for the most part, you're gonna be okay. But just know that if you want to take the character to the next level and to be able to do really cool stuff with him, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time grinding that execution with him. Maybe not at the same level as a Zato player, but I would say that he's on that level of technical characters that do require some work. And the final one, as I was saying before in the dice fast part, this dude is easy to panic with. The best example as always is getting hit by a Potemkin buster, right? You don't want to get hit by 2, and you really don't want to get hit by 3 because by then you're dead. So a lot of Chipp players, me included, they're gonna lose their mind, especially when they're beginners. They're gonna try to get out by doing a deep heat, bursting immediately, by doing a blitz, by trying to backdash, even doing crazy stuff like wake up super and so on. And you know, sometimes that stuff works, but if your opponent plays carefully, every single one of those attempts is gonna get absolutely demolished. And you know what happens once your opponent gets a read on you and you're playing Chipp? It usually means death or a stun that leads you to death, and you don't want to have that happening to you at all. That's what you want to avoid. So being able to keep a calm mind while playing this character is extremely important. So remember, if you're someone that tends to lose their mind easily like me, this character, it's not gonna be a fun time. It's not until the very end, like on day 4 and 5, that I was actually telling myself to relax and not to panic in neutral or during Oki. It actually helped me a lot. I was getting way more wins by just doing that, by just relaxing. And I'm gonna get a bit more in detail during the tip section. Thing number 1 is to get comfortable using the teleports. Learn each one of your teleports, so get used to all of them. You don't have to do jump installs, but just know what you can do after them. Know the timings for when you can do YRC, for example, so TP YRC to catch people jumping for an air grab and so on. Just learn all the timings related to teleports. It's gonna help you a lot, and you're gonna get used to doing down-down inputs, because let's face it, down-down inputs are a bit awkward, especially if you're used to just doing quarter circles. They're a bit strange. So being able to do them quickly, it's extremely important, and the faster you get used to doing this, the better it's gonna be for you, because some combos require you to do teleports on command, so to say. Tip number 2 is to learn FD cancel Oki. Now, what is FD cancel Oki? Let me explain it real quick. If you've been checking the footage, you've noticed that during some of my Oki setups, I'm gonna run toward the opponent, I'm gonna jump, and then my jump momentum flat out stops and I just fall straight to the ground. What I do there for that to happen is a thing called FD cancel. And how do you do it? Chipp has a move which is 2K. 2K is the spinny move that Chipp does in the air where he just falls straight to the ground. If you jump and you plink 2K with punch, you're gonna cancel that 2K into FD. So you have to plink it. So you're gonna do 2KP. Plink it really fast. I wish I could show it on screen. If you want me to elaborate more on it, I'm gonna elaborate on it on the comments. But just know that you have to plink those 2 buttons, so you're gonna stop your momentum immediately. At first you're gonna notice that you cannot really choose which side you're gonna land on, so you sometimes it's gonna cross up, sometimes you're not gonna cross up, sometimes jump H is gonna hit twice, sometimes it's gonna hit once. It's gonna feel strange. But you have to know that the more you do it, the more you're gonna understand, and the more you're gonna get a feeling of when those things are gonna happen, and you're gonna be able to adapt a bit better. You can also not do a jump H and just go low. You can delay a jump S and it's still gonna hit, and there are many things that you can do from that. But I would say just focus on doing FD cancel, jump H. It's the most basic Oki you can do mid-screen, and once people start blitzing you, just start varying it, but just doing FD cancel and T-low, and it's great. You have a low-high mix-up that's gonna take you pretty far. So yeah, remember, learn the FD cancel Oki. It's the first Oki that I focused on when I was learning the character, and while it sounds difficult, it isn't, so go for it. You'll see, you'll be surprised, you're gonna get it. And the final one is don't go crazy all the time. Chipp is a fast character. He has many tools and he can do a bunch of stuff, so it's very easy to fall into the trap of just going ham. Teleport everywhere. Alpha Blade, Gamma Blade, YRC. Teleport YRC, jump into the wall, Alpha Blade. Dagger, Shuriken, just whatever. You know, all that stuff. It's cool and it looks amazing when it works, but good players, they're gonna relax. You know, they're gonna see you doing all this crazy stuff and they're just gonna wait for you to make a huge mistake, and you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for it hard. You don't want to do that. Yeah, going crazy might work against beginners, but you don't want to do that all the time. So I would say that if you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is try to, of course, play the character and get used to all of his tools, but try to keep the crazy play to a minimum. There are some people that this style works against, and it's great if you can recognize that and abuse it. But if you realize that someone can deal with it, you have to be able to change your playstyle immediately to a more methodical playstyle. So just remember that. Yeah, so that's it. I'm pretty happy with this week. I played the character fairly well, I would say. I learned most of the stuff that I wanted to learn, and I do feel that my Chipp got a little bit better. I was taking matches of some pretty good players, even though I was losing most of them, but I was able to kill them every now and then, and they were working for their wins. It wasn't just completely free for them, with some exceptions, but for the most part, I was putting up a fight. So yeah, remember that this character is extremely fun to play. I would definitely recommend it to a lot of people. In fact, I would actually recommend it to everyone, because it's gonna help you to relax during matches, which is extremely important when playing Guilty Gear. You don't want to panic all the time. So playing a character that has such a small margin of error, it's gonna make you improve in ways that you don't really imagine. It's not gonna improve your execution, it's not gonna improve your Oki or situational awareness or anything. Nah, I think the main thing that it's gonna help you improve on is just your mental state and your patience. It's quite surprising coming from a character that's going ham all the time. Now with that said, I would like to talk that the next week it's gonna be Baiken. However, since it's October, we're playing spooky games on my stream, so that video is gonna be coming out hopefully in November. Don't worry if you don't see that much Guilty Gear content. Maybe I'm gonna upload some Guilty Gear matches, miscellaneous stuff, just May games or random characters basically. So don't worry if you don't see a video in 2 weeks as usual. This video is already being released a bit late because I haven't even had the time to edit it until now. So yeah guys, as usual, make sure to follow me on my Twitch and on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube if you want to see more of this stuff. And as I said before, the next character is going to be Baiken. I have some friends that play Baiken really well. I got all the resources ready, so I'm actually looking forward to play her. And yeah guys, I hope you have a great day and see you next time.